All of the stats that people bring up about black people are incorrect. And many people and many times they bring up different things that seems to us as black Americans like it don't really fit for us. That's because it's not really of us. And it's not really what we do. And it's not really of our culture. And because it's not who we are, those stats that they have of us cannot be considered true. And here's why. Now, before we get started, I'd like to thank you in advance for subscribing to this channel and becoming part of the discourse. Alright, let's get to it. Black is not a monolith. There are black American freedmen or FBA, and then there's pretty much other black people, black immigrants and their descendants of all their different ethnicities. And this is a distinction that we have is because when people think about what is a black person, the first person that comes to their mind is not like somebody from Trinidad and Tobago, not somebody from Niger, not someone from the South Africa, not someone from Britain, not someone from Australia. Whenever you say black person, most people think of like somebody like 50 Cent. Like they don't think of like black people and black culture of many people outside of America. Black tends to be mainly used for American or specifically freedmen, black American freedmen. It is normally used to tell us apart from everyone else because we are the culture and we're where their culture comes from. So when we have that, you also have other people who come over from like Jamaica or some other parts in the Caribbean, and they'll come to America and they'll be like, "Oh, you're black, you're like this, or you're like that," and they'll be like, "No, I'm not like that." Sometimes they'll even say, "I'm not black," even though their skin color will be just on par with us, even darker. Sometimes they'll still say, "I'm not black," because they know that black is not a race, black is an ethnicity. And specifically, blackness is black American freedmen. That is what it truly is. And so they take it as a cultural thing because they know that it is, and because it actually is. It is a cultural thing. It is not a racial thing. So blackness can only be accurately described as freedmen or black American freedmen or foundational black American, whichever you want to choose. And with this delineation, what it does is that it starts to bring to light what it is that black Americans have always been saying about our experiences, or even bring to light things that we never really notice about our experience. So a lot of times when we hear about black culture being like, "Oh, black culture is so degenerate, it's so negative and backwards and evil," and it's like, what, really? No. Or it's like, it's so criminal, it's so this, it's so that. We're like, no, it's not. But for some reason, it's like it always gets thrust upon us. But then when it comes to our black immigrant and their descendants counterparts, for some reason, they're always doing good. Like they're always business owners, they're always upstanding citizens or whatnot. And it doesn't seem to really add up because it's like they bring over degeneracy from their cultures too. They bring over criminals from their homelands too. But why is it that whenever it happens, it gets all thrown on black American freedmen rather than these other ethnicities of black people taking on their own cultures, good and bad? This delineation would stand in to prove whether or not these statistics that they say about black people, quote unquote, are actually true. Because we need to have the truth, and without knowing the delineation inside of the stats, we cannot determine whether or not yet something is or is not true based on who we are or how we act. So there cannot be any general statements that are made about us until there have been stats that specifically prove that our ethnicity specifically is the ones who are committing these crimes, doing these acts, and doing it to the extent in which the media would always have us to believe. So when we start to prove these stats, what we are actually doing is we're finding the proof in the data, because we as Black Americans have two enormous points that we often kind of hold up, but we've never really had the data to kind of like fully back it up. We've had some, but not a lot. And what the data that we need is that, I mean, the points that we have that the data will stand to correct or to validate, is that we believe that immigrants, especially and including Black immigrants, are treated much better than Black Americans or Native Black Americans in this society, and are given an easier time to obtain and generate wealth than we as Black Americans. This is something that has been going on and on in the lexicon of, oh, not the lexicon, but in the zeitgeist of our community. We've been going back and forth saying, like, isn't it that immigrants is getting something that we not? Like, are we, am I seeing that, or is that just us? And on top of that, we have another stat that we have another point that Black immigrants take advantage of all the good stuff that Black Americans have created in this country, and are they take advantage of our reputation. But then at the same breath, they'll bring over their degenerates and their criminals, and then they'll just shove that into our ethnicity. And then once they do that, then when they get something good, they separate from the community and say, "Oh, I'm in Senegal." Or I'm from Senegal, I'm Senegalese, I'm a Senegalese scholar, or I'm a Nigerian scholar, or I'm a South African scholar, or I'm a Ghanaian chemist, or I'm a Kenyan doctor, or whatever. And they'll put off all of their criminals who are committing things that contribute to the downtroddenness of our community, like, let's say, fraud, unaliving people, rapping. It's like, you know, some of these stats could be that it's not just something that we, like, as Black Americans do, but maybe also something that's been brought over. And a good example of this is when you look at people like what's her name, Nicki Minaj, how she, like, her brother and her husband are both immigrants, and they're also both the PDF files, you know, which she may also even be herself. But it's like, here she is representing Black American culture. However, she's bringing over her Caribbean values that, we don't really rock with and gel with. And this is what the delineation in the data will seek to prove. And once it is proved once and for all, we can truly understand and see and say what is and is not really happening in the Black American community. So what this would do is that this would seek to prove what it is that we have been believing all this time. And if this is the case, and once the proof really does come out, then we can make a sweeping generalization of whether these Black stats are true or not. But until we have the delineation within the data, we cannot proactively tell or say or attribute any type of inference to this data until we have the delineation. So you can't say that, oh, Black culture is this or Black people are that. You can't say that because we do not know if that's true or not. You cannot infer that from this data because the data is not delineated. So when it comes to people saying like, oh, Black people are this or Black people are that, unless you have delineated data, your data will now be considered invalid and will no longer be considered. And so this is why the statistics that are often brought up against Black people are not true. But I also have a couple of bonus points about how the proof in this data and whatnot is also getting kind of finessed. So when it comes to police often target Black American men for crime stats, and we make up a disproportionate amount of the wrongfully convicted. It's like, how is that possible? If we make up so much of the arrest, but we make up so much of the disproportionately or wrongfully convicted, it's kind of like, what's the correlation there? And not only that, but when it comes to our white counterparts, we see that we're not arrested. They're not arrested and charged with the same depth as Black American men are. And it's kind of like, or even just Black Americans in general. And it's kind of like this, they're almost given a slap on the wrist so that their criminal stats won't get so bolstered and it won't be true for what it is that their criminal stats really look like. And not only that, but I believe that I've heard or read somewhere that they can actually report the stats that they actually have as far as the arrests that they've made. And sometimes they don't be fully truthful and honest with the stats that they have. Like maybe they'll say that they have more Black people when they really don't, or maybe they don't have as many non-Black prisoners as they really do. So that's also something when it comes to them reporting either incorrect numbers or even just disproportionately targeting Black Americans when, you know, our propensity for criminality is not that much higher than everybody else's. Also, when it comes to immigrant scams, which kind of ties into the police, is that I've heard about these immigrants doing what's called a U visa scam, which is where they will say that they're a victim of a crime and it would help expedite their citizenship. And when it comes to like kind of fabricating a crime, whenever you do that against a white person, it's kind of like good luck getting the police to arrest a white person for saying that they committed a crime against you, and, you know, sweeping it under the rug so that they can do it. However, when they say that Black Americans are the ones who commit these crimes against them, okay, you got the right people who commit the right crimes now. So now we can, you know, get you expedited. Now we can kind of get you going. And all of this artificially boosts the crime stats of Black Americans so that it shows that, you know, we are more criminal, inherently criminal culture, when all of this really is just a projection of white criminality culture in this country that, you know, they kind of have, and they kind of put it back on us. But they do it by allowing these immigrants to scam the system as long as it hurts Black Americans and fills up their jail quotas, you know, as much as they possibly can. So these are a couple of bonus points about how these things are also contributing to how Black stats are really just, you know, a lie. So I want to thank y'all for following me in my philosophy. If you like my philosophy, go ahead and hit the like button. If you don't like it, go ahead and hit that like button anyways. As I always say, I'm open to debate in the comment section, and if you got some, you know, information that, you know, maybe I'm missing, maybe that you can add on to it, maybe I'm tripping about them padding our stats, you know, whatever you got, go ahead and put it in the comment section, and we're gonna go ahead and get back at it. We can go back and forth and whatnot. And as we go, I want you to always remember that the unexamined life is not one that's worth living. All right, y'all. Peace.